Well, good. This far we have been on this journey together. And thank you for being part of this journey. When these episodes are posted up, and sometimes I'm not sure who will watch them first, but I notice there are people who are following diligently. And so thank you for always following. And if you are landing on this and you've not watched the previous ones, subscribe, follow, find the other ones, and find out if they are of value to you. Share it with someone else. Call people, put it in front of them, watch it together. And if you need more conversation around them, reach out and we can see how to walk a journey with you. One of the greatest things, and I've seen this, I've worked in the space of young people for many years, for about 15 years now anyway. Not many in the eyes of some people, but probably many in the eyes of some people. But I believe 15 years is something I can claim 15 years. I've been in the space of young people for 15 years, and I find myself continuing to be in that space of young people. As much as, of course, I'm getting older and I'm thinking maybe I need to transition into other things, but I still find myself, even whatever I transition to, will still have got to do with young people. Young people are great. I love it. I love spending time with them. I love experiencing their energy. I love seeing their dreams, their imaginations, their questioning the status quo and all those things. I love it. And it just gives me hope that maybe there's something wonderful. Now, I talk about this because, and maybe this does not apply only to young people, but probably cuts across, because something that I really get challenged with, which is called this tool I'm bringing your way today, called effective learning. Effective learning. Now, many of us go to places. Maybe you go to a conference, or maybe you get an idea, and it's new information. You've never interacted with it before, and you get it. You get excited. Yes, good. This is amazing. And then quickly, you start innovating around it. And you start thinking of how to innovate around that information. Some of you might not agree with me on this, but that's dangerous. Because really, for you, the effective way of learning is when you get a piece of information, is to imitate that. Imitate it. Until you find that you're good at it. Until you know, I got this. I think I've mastered all corners of it. I know how this happens. I've mastered it. And then innovate around it. Innovate around it. Because the danger with just getting information and quickly starting to innovate around it is that you're probably going to make the same mistake everybody else have been making. You're going to find yourself in the same place everybody else have been finding themselves in. So the question is, how can you practice effective learning? Instead of always quick to start innovating, and there are some people who might have a problem with me by just saying this, but I think it is important that you go the whole journey of imitating before you're quick to start thinking, how then can you innovate around it? That's effective learning process. Let me give you this example. 2009. So I was approached, and some of those things I look back and I'm like, I wish I kept doing this. I was approached, and having graduated with a degree in mechanical engineering, this is 2009, just a year out of campus. And I was in Kawangware running this project with young men that were doing amazing work, making gift bags and all. So someone approached me and said, hey, Gabriel, being an engineer, do you think you can come up with energy firewood stoves, energy saving firewood stoves? So of course I've never done anything like that. I was curious. Okay. So from my engineering background, that made sense to me. And of course, I started going. So the guy said, there's a conference happening in Uganda. So we're going to send you to that conference. And so we went with a colleague of mine. We're going to send you to that conference because you need to go see, learn, and interact with people who are in that world. So I went into it. Of course, before that, I started researching, Googling energy saving stoves and everything. So I went to Uganda. And this is 2009, so we were in some hotel in Munyonyo. For those who might be familiar with Uganda, it's a place called Munyonyo. So we were there. So I saw all manner of well-designed, nicely, neatly done firewood stoves. 2009, firewood stove was nothing common in this country. Right now, they're all over. But then they were not there in this country. But anyway, if someone was doing it, probably it was still... And this was in pursuit for carbon trading. This organization wanted to see how they can make money through carbon trading. So when I went to this event, this conference, this seminar thing, throughout the whole day, I was watching and seeing these stoves. And when I came back, the first thing I did was to try reproduce what I saw. That was my first thing. To try reproduce what I saw in Uganda. And I did. I tried to reproduce it, and I did. Then, after trying to reproduce what I saw, the next thing was, okay, so how can I make it better? How can I innovate around it? And then that took me a lot of research. I remember making a lot of trips to, I think it's called Shaurimoyo place, where they do those metal works. And I had some guy in Limuru who was making clay and going back and forth. And I did. I made some energy stoves. And after making them, of course, they were tested. They were even taken to the US. They were tested and everything. Of course, somewhere along the way, the project didn't pick up because this organization also, there was some changing in dynamics in leadership. That's what happens sometimes. The new leadership that was brought on board probably did not prioritize on that. And then, of course, China started bringing other things, and China brought stoves. And they started bringing a lot of stoves. And right now, they're all firewood stoves all over. Now, I share that story in essence because for me, it appreciated the space for getting information, imitating before innovating. Because if I quickly just got this information and went straight ahead to start innovating, I would have gone through a lot of challenges. Because maybe there are things that I've made mistakes on. Maybe there are things that I've done wrongly that maybe I could have avoided. And I avoided some of those mistakes because of going to this conference in Uganda and listening to people and sitting down with some people and asking them, how did you figure this out? How did you figure it? Oh, I did this first. I made mistakes. Of course, that's also the time I learned about making briquettes. But of course, I didn't pursue making briquettes. I just became something I learned, and I'm like, wow, that's nice. I could make that one day. So I don't know whether this makes sense to you, that you appreciate that in order to effectively learn something and be good at something, you have to imitate before you innovate. One of the things in Giant that we are really encouraged is we have friends of ours who've developed these tools. Some of the tools you see that I've been taking you through. They've developed these tools and they've done these tools. Like some of them amazing, which I'll walk you through, is 5 voices. So there's a gentleman, one of the founders of Giant, called Steve Cochran, who's really the master of the 5 voices. So one of the things people are told when you're taking through certification at Giant is imitate Steve before you innovate. So before you start using your own examples that might not make sense, maybe use Steve's examples, imitate how he explains, imitate how he does it, then you become good at it. Then innovate. Come up with your own ways now. These tools have been developed by a lot of people who've contributed in this. And if you go through the Giant, you'll see all those things. I say all this to just emphasize, and I can't emphasize any further, that the most effective way of learning is you imitate first before you innovate. Please don't be very quick to innovate, because that might hurt you and you might regret your resources that you've spent on that process. So if you're thinking of doing something, imitate first. Learn from someone. If you have a mentor, learn from your mentor, imitate your mentor, and then innovate. And then you will be good at what you do. You will avoid common mistakes that people make. You'll make your own mistakes, but you'll avoid common mistakes that maybe some people would make. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope this has helped you as you walk your journey of learning, because you're always learning as we grow. Thank you, and subscribe so that you can continue getting more of such. Thank you very much.